Live from the Export Beer Garden Studios, this is the feature-length agenda live from Paris from Thursday, the 5th of October.
The Agenda, an alternative commentary collective podcast.
Well, good evening. Well, good morning, good evening, who knows, and welcome along to the feature-length agenda with myself, G Lane, Manaia Stewart and Matt Heath, live from Gay Party here on the Export Ultra Beer Garden Tour. And before we start, we do have an alarm button, don't we? If Matt Heath, you fall asleep anytime during the podcast, we will be playing this.
Oh.
You okay? Is that good? Will that wake you up? Will that trigger you to wake up?
Yeah. No, well, I'm not going to fall asleep in a podcast. That's ridiculous.
Well, you're 2 from 2.
Yeah.
You are 2 from 2.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's get into the agenda before we get into the Paris files. Something that warms my heart, both of you, and I was disappointed by the lack of Mad Monday shenanigans and schmozzles, but it looks like the good old AFL has come through with the goods.
Yeah, the AFL has finally come through with Swans captain Callum Mills. Now, what he's done is he's showed up to a press conference with a destroyed shoulder.
Yes.
That means that he's going to miss the start of next year, but he hasn't admitted to what he's done to his shoulder.
He's run into something, hasn't he?
Well, because what he says, he said, I've turned up and I'm going to say I apologise, but he doesn't want to go into the details of what he did. What could you have done that smashed up your shoulder that's too embarrassing to say or too dodgy to say?
Here's the quote that he's put out. I don't think that's necessarily important how I got injured. What is important is that I'm here today to take ownership for my actions. But he won't say what the actions were.
So he hasn't really taken ownership, is he?
But he's, completely.
I mean, what could it be? Like, what's the worst thing that you can do with your shoulder that you don't want to tell anyone about?
I'd say it'd be something stupid. It would be something dangerously stupid.
Yeah.
Like trying to tackle a car or jumping off a building into a swimming pool or something that...
Well, I think it's a bit more nefarious than that, because if it was that, I feel like you could come clean and say, hey, look, I was just doing this, or I was trying to break dance like Scott Robertson, and then your fan base would be like, look, that's fine, we get it. We're still annoyed, but, we get it.
But his issue is also he didn't win the AFL, did he?
No, but I mean, that's a big part of it. But I also just think there's something more to this. It doesn't pass the sniff test.
Can you hurt your shoulder in a sexual situation?
You can hurt any muscle in your body if you're into certain things.
What's the exact injury? It's a shattered shoulder? What is it?
He's in an arm brace. He hasn't said exactly what it is. He's undergone post-season shoulder surgery.
Right.
Well, why? How come
you think he was in a sling or a sex swing or some description?
Yeah, maybe he fell out of a sex swing.
He's in a sling now, but why can't he have just said that it was
is it a sex sling?
It could potentially. No, I was in it now at the press conference. No, that'd be aggressive to show up to a press conference in a sex swing, though.
Yeah, it would be. It would be a power move.
Yeah, because he goes, I want to take ownership. I fell out of a sex swing. Here's the sex swing I fell out of. I'm back in it.
It's the swing's fault. It's not my fault. But what? Yeah, why couldn't he have just said that he hurt himself during the match?
Yeah.
Because someone out there has footage or knows exactly what it is that he's done.
Yeah, and I think otherwise you would come out and say it was a dancing injury.
Right, so he knows there's some footage, so he doesn't want to say what it is just in case that footage doesn't come out.
For when that footage comes out. So he's trying to get in front of it.
But saying that, what it has done is unearthed the classic news article where they've gone through the litany of Mad Monday shenanigans. Can you give us the highlights of that?
Yes, I can. Let's stick with the AFL. Clinton Jones of St Kilda. The headline here is A History of Mad Monday Incidents.
Sorry, Heath, they yawned and the head went down.
I was just trying to have a little bit of a snooze.
Did you would have heard the yawn. I heard it.
This headline will wake you up, Matt Heath. Dwarf on fire. Have I got your attention?
You certainly have.
St Kilda's Clinton Jones had to apologise for an incident that resulted in a dwarf entertainer's clothes being set on fire at a Mad Monday. This is the funny part to me. AFL's CEO apologised after laughing about the incident on Breakfast TV the next day. He then had to donate $3,000 to a charity.
And because you just laughed then, Matt Heath, I need $3,000 from you.
God damn it.
Joel Monaghan, this one's quite famous. There was the photo of him with the Jack Russell and his Mad Monday. This is a rugby league one. 2014. Photo of him and a teammate's dog was published online during a Mad Monday celebration. That's sort of that's a standard one, isn't it?
Yeah, the dog sex one.
Yeah, but look, the dog that was happy, nothing was actually happening. I thought that was a strange scandal. There was no actual penetration of the dog.
A victimless crime.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, really, as far as the dog is concerned, someone was up behind him. He didn't know what the joke was.
No,
no one got hurt.
He's saying the dog enjoyed it.
Well, yeah. Well, the dog's tail was down.
Jason Taylor, who was the NRL coach of the South Sydney Rabbitohs in 2015, he got into a fight with one of his star Kiwi players, David Farlongo. They got into what the press are calling a kung fu fight. Footage of the incident showed the incident getting out of hand before Taylor was punched square in the face.
So did it start off as a fun kung fu fight?
What's a kung fu fight? Can someone just...
Is that when
what's the difference between a scrap, a punch-up, and a kung fu fight?
In a kung fu fight, you normally try and speak out of sync. You
Right.
sort of you speak like you've been dubbed over.
That's what gave it away. When you see the footage, you can see that they're actually speaking Mandarin Chinese, but it's been dubbed over in English, and that's how you could tell that it was a kung fu fight that they were having.
Stupid, silly me for even asking that question.
We'll get into it in the Paris Files, but Matt Heath and I had a quite prolonged fight today.
We did actually at the Sacre Clear.
Only thing that stopped it from being a kung fu fight is that we spoke fluent English the entire time.
As a kung fu fight, do you have to do a two-footed kick like Eric Cantona?
Yes.
That's a kung,
Like a Liu Kang.
Does that make it? Is it more kicking than punching? Is
Yes.
that a kung fu fight?
Well, and when cartoon sound effects are happening with every punch connecting as well, that'll do it.
Did you own kung fu shoes?
I did have a pair of kung fu shoes.
I had a pair of kung fus.
Yeah.
Kung fu shoes came back in and around the sort of the 2010 mark.
No one's bringing kung fu to MMA. You don't see UFC fighters bringing kung fu, do you?
I don't think so. No.
What makes
karate.
What makes kung fu different from jiu-jitsu?
Well, jiu-jitsu's wrestling around on the ground. Kung fu's all you're kicking and punching.
Oh, okay.
But I think kung fu's a little bit more Hollywood than I think that shit gets found out very quick.
I tell you, it's not true to say that everyone is kung fu fighting anymore.
Yeah.
No, because they most certainly aren't. And I think that's something we need to address as a people, but that's not for us. Big Fev and the Big Toy. 2008 former AFL player Brendan Favola was at a basketball game. The Carlton star was photographed in public. Oh, sorry, he wasn't at a basketball game. He was... He was photographed in public wearing a woman's nightie with a sex toy protruding through his trousers during a Mad Monday celebration. Mike Lane.
What's wrong with that?
That's a victimless crime too. That is a victimless crime. That is him in a dress with a dilly.
You bring your own biases into that statement, though, because I have seen photos of you in a very similar situation. You swapped clothes with a woman from the legal team.
Oh yeah.
I remember that.
Okay.
Hey, but was the sex toy protruding front ways or back ways?
Well, that's an interesting point.
Because if it's inserted and back coming out the back, is very different than when you just put it out the front for a joke.
And this could be interesting because it says it's protruding through his trousers. So if it was coming out the front, it would say protruding from his trousers.
Yeah.
So is this protruding into his trousers?
So you know what I'm saying? The back of the sex toys is hanging out the back, and the front of it is...
Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah.
Who would ever let themselves be filmed doing that? Hopefully that video that Joe Jury's still editing never sees the light of day. Mariner Star. You just need to wake yourself up
Did you feel yourself drifting off?
What?
Mariner star dresses like Hitler in 2008. Central Coast Mariners midfielder Andrew Gumprecht portrayed himself as Adolf Hitler at the club's Mad Monday celebrations. German-born footballer later apologised to everyone out there who was offended by his actions.
He was German.
He was German.
That makes it even better. That one.
And again, I feel like there's a common thread here. There is a photograph, in fact, footage of me dressed as a
Nazi,
as Adolf Hitler. I think
no,
it was all blurred out.
Yeah, were you Hitler or you were just a Nazi? I think it was to do with the Champagne Rugby episode. Matt Heath was being a stickler for the rules, and it's a long story, but
it's complicated.
There is video footage of you in a Nazi uniform.
Yeah, great show, the Champagne footy show, actually. We should bring that back. I saw a Nazi cat, but not like the Nazi cat that you see online all the time. I saw an actual Nazi cat.
Like wearing a uniform and everything?
That was in Paris.
That's where you'll find it, I think.
Yeah.
He got lost after the... Let's not dive into it.
Another kind of maybe it's Mad Monday related, I'm not sure, but RTS has been pinged for getting on a razzmatazz, waking up in the morning and getting behind the wheel, done for drunk driving.
So he's had himself a big night at the casino, a bit of a 2 a.m.er, and he's Ubered home responsibly. Unfortunately, he's gone to pick up his car the next day, and he's been done for it. So,
that is unfortunate. So this is the next day driving home, still a bit in the system.
Yeah, it goes through the police stop.
Still a bit. 250 he blew, and the legal limit's 80.
Yeah.
So sometimes it just stays in there.
Well, yeah, because when you compare that to Israel Adesanya, who he got done for 87, and he was driving home from dinner, which sounds to me like you just had one or two. And then he's blown just a fraction over.
This mildly terrifies me because I never really know.
The next day?
We should run some sort of lab situation or some lab test where we can work out what the line is.
Well,
like a breathalyzer.
Do they give them any leeway, like in a legal sense, to go, well, you went home from the casino, you left your car there. Obviously, your intention is to do the right thing.
No, I don't know. Well, my intention when I go out is not to get blackout, but I get blackout.
Yeah.
Because there was a Minister of Justice that was drunk driving and doesn't seem to have been a massive problem.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Well, no, that's still before the courts.
Is
I
it?
think.
Right.
Yeah, that one hasn't quite gone to the courts yet.
Right, but I thought when that happened, people because the government didn't get that angry about it, I thought that maybe
we're over it.
We'd sort of pump the brakes on the outrage at that kind of thing.
No, I think we would have been outraged, but then they threw the mental health thing out, and everyone had to back off.
So maybe RTS needs to do that.
Yeah.
I'm going through a few struggles at the moment.
How is his mental health? Because he's just missed out on a finals run with the Warriors, so maybe he could have pinned it on that.
He hasn't necessarily, though.
What do you mean?
Yeah. Well, there could be a finals run next year.
Oh, there will be a finals run next year.
So
I think mentally he'd be in a great place because NPC's just about wrapped up. And he'd be like, thank fucking Christ for that. I can actually go into camp with the Warriors and get ready for the NRL season next year.
Do you reckon he went on Mad Monday with the Warriors?
Yep.
Is that when that happened, do you think?
All right, anyway, let's move on from RTS. Let's leave him alone. Let's move away from a potential defamation issue. Manaia Stewart, looking at the next topic, some world of golf news.
Yes, a 20-year-old golfer has been allowed to resume her golfing career after she tested positive for steroids. Now, whenever this happens, some sort of excuse always comes out. It's usually tainted food. But in this instance, her excuse is that she may have come into contact with the substance when she was kissing a bodybuilder at one point, having a dalliance with a bodybuilder on a list of bullshit.
Kissing, like, I don't know, like, I don't want to get crude on this, but was there a DNA transfer?
Well, there evidently must have been.
But, are we talking about
a mouth kiss, or
are we talking about what kind of load of DNA transfer are we getting here?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah,
it is a good question.
Like, what's the load of DNA that came through?
Yeah,
I love the way they described the bodybuilder as well, who was rumoured to have been on steroids. If you're describing him as a bodybuilder, it's sort of inferred that he is already on steroids.
If he's not on steroids, she's really sort of out at him.
Yeah, when she's definitely picked the wrong one. You know, if he wasn't on steroids.
Yeah, well, why would you get on the roids for golf anyway?
I don't know. I guess so. The thing she tested positive for was supposed to help with obviously muscle recovery, but then also bone density. I don't know. Did she not have very dense bones?
But doesn't like steroids just to help you across a long season to not get so tired and stuff? And
you should get on steroids then. If that's the case, you should get on the roids. I'd rather you get on roids than us have to play the wake up alarm.
Well,
you're like Jeff. You're like Jeff from the Wiggles.
Yeah. Yeah, the purple wiggle of the ACC.
Well, someone got like a load of steroids that I could take to wake me up?
I don't, but I do know a bodybuilder that you could kiss.
Okay, what part?
That could be, that's entirely up to you.
Okay. From the world of the Rugby World Cup, which it just happens to be on in France at the same time as the Export Ultra Beer Garden Tour. Who would have thunk that?
Such a coincidence.
What a coincidence that is. But there's conspiracy theories flying around, and I think it's mainly driven by South Africans who are terrified that the Irish team and the Scottish team are in cahoots around the next game, because if Scotland beat Ireland by 21 points and both teams get bonus points tries, which is very, very unlikely, then South Africa get knocked out.
Yeah. So what is the equation there, did you say?
So Ireland have to score the four try bonus.
Yes. Yep.
But they have to lose by 21 to Scotland.
So that Scotland would be above South Africa in points diff.
So that's a big game.
So that is the lowest
big game
score.
of rugby.
The lowest score that could be would be 28 plays 49. And Scotland win. So Scotland need to run up 50 points on Ireland while letting in 30 of their own.
The number one team in the world that's won 15 games in a row.
Yes.
Yep.
Do you believe at all that they would even consider that? Because I think
that's kind of an overseas view, seeing Ireland and Scotland as pretty much the same country. Someone's looking at it going, they're in cahoots. Scotland and Ireland don't like each other. They're not in cahoots.
No, and they don't hate South Africa that much.
No.
Yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
They're not that scared of South Africa.
No.
Especially since they've beaten them. But as you were saying before, Lane, the way you would have to do that would be you start your A team, the Irish team, start their A team, run up their points, sub everyone off, and then Scotland need to bring everyone on fresh. Matt Heath.
There's another yawn.
Can you stop
No,
playing
another
that
yawn.
noise? I'm trying to have a sleep.
Then Scotland need to bring their A team on and then try and
Yeah.
score 50 points in probably 40 minutes of rugby.
Yeah, but as I said, I think Ireland's B team, even C team, is probably better than Scotland's A team.
So it's
at
not
the
gonna be enough.
moment. Speaking of our rugby, we have the bottomless brunch, the big rugby bottomless brunch. It's back. We had it down there at Lula Inn for the opening game versus France.
Yeah.
It is as much as you can drink and
Yep.
eat down there at Lula's. Bringing it back for the quarterfinal on October the 15th versus Ireland. So if you want to book that, it's going to sell out pretty quick. So text brunch to 32336. You'll get a link to book that. I think it's $49. Oh, you can drink it. It's a 2-hour bottomless brunch.
And the food's
game.
decent too.
Yeah, and you got the ACC commentary on as well.
It's you need to be watching these games in company, you know? Don't just sit at home in your pajamas for the quarters.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially that game, because that's going to be mildly terrifying, that quarterfinal versus Ireland. And that is going to be the game that's going to win us or lose us the World Cup, really. I think if we win that, I'm quietly confident that we'll make it to the final.
But we will have a lot of wind in our sails as All Blacks fans, having just watched Ireland get trounced by Scotland 49-28.
That's true.
It's going to be pretty good.
And the Cricket World Cup kicks off
Finally.
tonight, New Zealand time. It's New Zealand versus England. It is a replay of the final from 2019.
Is this the first one day we've played against England since 2019? I think it's not.
We played a series with them just recently.
Yes, that was.
We won one. They've humped us in two. But we need to fart one out in this. If we can fart a victory over England, then we have a run of like Bangladesh, Netherlands, and Afghanistan.
Iraq.
Because with this World Cup,
Syria.
it's like the 1992 format where there's 9 teams and you play everyone, and the top 4 go through to the semis.
That's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
That's a great way to do it because then there's no discussions about pools and who got lucky in the pools and who had a better path through.
Yeah.
It's just like the best 4 teams go through.
And it gets it out of the way as well, because cricket's a longer game than rugby, but for some reason they're condensing it into a shorter time span.
Yeah.
Whereas we have been talking at lunch today, again, about does there need to be a Tier 2 pool and then the top of the Tier 2 goes into the Tier 1 rugby pools? You're playing every other day.
Look, there's no tournament in the world like the Rugby World Cup where mostly nothing's happening.
Yeah.
Most of the tournament, nothing's happening.
Our South African friend we ran into yesterday spent an entire month trying to fill weeks in here in France. And he has...
His exact words, I fucking hate Paris and I'm leaving.
Yeah,
He's running away to Germany. He can't take any more. He came over to support South Africa. He's been here so long.
It's
Seen so few games.
So South African to think there's nothing to do in Paris.
Yeah.
He was also sitting with us at the worst cafe in Paris, so maybe that's his problem.
But also, I saw a great article in the New York Times, basically explaining what the Cricket World Cup is and how important it is. And it had one section that said, "Okay, I know baseball, but can you quickly explain cricket?" So this is an American trying to explain to baseball fans, and it said, "It's difficult, but I'll try. With the caveat that there are some oversimplifications, here is the gist. The cricket field is a large circle, and the fielding team spreads out around it. 2 batsmen at the centre of the circle take turns trying to hit balls from the fielding team's bowlers. When a batsman does hit the ball, he and his fellow batsmen may elect to run between 2 low posts called wickets.
Low posts.
Each time they do, they get a run. If a batsman hits the ball out of the circle on the bounce, it's 4 runs. On the fly, it's 6 runs. 6 runs. One stark difference from baseball is the bowler takes a running start and most of the time bounces the ball to the batsman. Another is that the batsman may hit the ball in any direction, even backwards. There is no foul territory. The batsman can be put out in a number of ways, including having the ball they hit out on the fly or having the ball from the bowler knock over the wicket or poles. In this format of the game, a batting team is finished when 10 of the 11 batsmen are out, and it faces 300 balls, whichever comes first. By then, the team will most likely...
balls.
You can imagine that most Americans have switched off by this stage. Then, after a break, the other team bats and tries to stop the first team's score. And then it goes, you've convinced me that cricket is a fun sport, but can it be more than that? And so it just goes on about a bunch of things you can watch. But they're trying their best in New York Times.
I feel like I understand cricket less now that I've listened to that explanation of it. I thought I knew how it worked. I now don't. I think I've always said that you've either got room in your brain for either baseball or cricket. You're not going to be able to convert people who watch one to be able to watch the other. They're both too tedious.
Yeah.
There's too many bizarre...
I watch a lot of both.
You are the rare exception, I will say, Matt Heath.
I dabbled in it. Remember, I watched that one World Series, and
yeah.
I came home hammered, and my wife was so angry, and she's like, "Where have you been?" I was watching the World Series. It's so awesome. And she goes, "If you start watching baseball, we're going to have to start talking about this marriage."
Well, the thing is, there's 162 regular season games.
Yeah.
So that's before your team even gets into the playoffs. So
per team?
Yeah, per team. So
Jesus.
I think there's something like 2,800. I think it's 2,850, something around that, baseball games each year in MLB. So there's a lot to watch if you really wanted to get into it.
Further into that article, they talk about the different formats of the game, and they're at the top level. They have what's called a test, and that goes for wait for it, 5 days, and then there's a subtitle that says, "Yes, you read that right," and I love that. I feel like any sport that's so long that you have to stop to sleep is out of control, unless Matt Heath's playing it.
Yeah, that's the sport for me. The bit that really gets them, as you mentioned there, was the pitcher running in.
Yes.
They're like, what is the pitcher
take a
doing?
run up. They take a run up
because they imagine,
yeah.
And
they think it's cheating. So what are you doing? What's the advantage?
What they've left out there is that they think that you run up and throw it. Because I haven't mentioned that it has to be straight arm over the head, which is even harder to explain.
Because there'd be no advantage in running up and then pitching.
And then,
no, not at all.
It might save your shoulder a little bit, perhaps.
But hey, a little bit of good news for New Zealanders. Ben Stokes, who's come out of one-day cricket retirement, conveniently, for the Cricket World Cup in India, he has got a bit of a niggle.
This is just further evidence that retirement means nothing in sport.
No.
Like when dudes come out, how many times did Floyd Mayweather retire? How many times do boxers retire?
We need to rebrand it.
Yeah.
Is it
It's a hiatus?
Yeah.
A hiatus.
Is it a sabbatical?
It's a waiting for a better offer?
Breather, or just say nothing. Like, why do you have to? So many professional athletes just never formally retire because they're like, look, if someone else wants to throw another contract at me, I'll fucking take it.
Yeah.
So well, I don't know why, but I don't know. The hip is with. I was talking to Joe Jury about this last night. If an athlete wants to fake an injury, it's the hip flexor. There is no test for a hip flexor.
Yeah, right.
So if you want to go down and say, hip flexor, no physio can really check whether you've done it or not. Could he be foxing here a little bit, do you think?
No. He will want to come out and spank us again, Ben Stokes. But let's hope that needs another couple of weeks a break, because if we can beat England, that would be a great start to the World Cup for the Black Caps. That's probably as much sport as we get through on the feature length, as Heath drifts off again, and we'll wake him up. Because we're going to now move into the Paris files and what we've been up to the last few days. Well, the last 24 hours.
Yeah, that's right. It's Matt Heath. It's Manaia Stewart. It's G Lane. And this is day 4 of the Paris files. What a day it was in Paris for us again. Big sleep last night after a dinner out. And what was that dinner called? It was called Dijon.
No,
Do-Re-Mi.
it was Do-Re-Mi. Do-Re-Mi was the thing. And
I got served a bad steak.
well, yeah, I know. And you accused Joe Jury of taking your steak.
Yeah,
and
he took my steak.
Joe Jury also tried the foie gras, which is the tortured goose meal.
and the soul of that tortured goose, because that's the situation where they force feed the goose until its liver explodes, and then they feed you the liver.
It's so delicious.
And the soul of that tortured goose came back and haunted Joe Jury's anus in the middle of the night.
Oh, yeah.
And throughout the day.
I can vouch for that because I'm rooming with him. And he, at one stage, I looked over and the bed was empty, and I was like, oh my God, he's gone sleepwalking again, a la London, and he's somewhere. And then I kind of sat...
Paris for me.
And I sat there and I was like, oh, and then I heard this... coming from the toilet, and then he comes back and I was like, you're right. And he's like, that tortured goose has got me. That tortured goose has got me. And then he sat in bed and he ripped the biggest fart, and then there was a silence, and he said, just got to go check that. and had to go back into the toilet and clean himself up.
He's been dealing with the Goose's revenge all day as well.
Yeah.
We've been walking around Paris, and every now and then he'll turn around and just sort of shake his head.
Well, fans of the John Wick series, and particularly John Wick 4, or mainly John Wick 4, will enjoy what we got up to today. We went to Sacré-Cœur, which is the church with the 277 steps, which serves as the location for the finale of John Wick 4. And we reenacted a pretty spectacular fight on those stairs, didn't we?
I wonder how many people actually saw that and knew what you were doing. I was unsure because I was at the top of the stairs looking down at what you were up to, and you'd taken several takes and pretending to punch each other and knee each other. But
yeah.
I reckon no one knew what you were up to.
There were two people, right. And they were the two Australians we ran into on the way up there, because as we were walking directly up towards the hotel, the church, they turned around and walked back past us and they're like, no, stairs are this way, mate. You got to come this way.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, there was, but you told them, you had a discussion with them about John Wick.
Yes,
before
I did.
That. Yeah.
Because I heard them in thick Australian accents behind me on the way there. They were like, oh, this is where John Wick was. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, mate.
Yeah, hell yeah. And then I was like, oh, couple of Aussies there. I was like, yeah, how's your rugby team going? That's where they walked off.
Yeah.
If there wasn't enough reasons for people to get feverishly touristy in Paris, John Wick setting John Wick 4 across different locales of Paris has really pushed it to another level. Because we were involved in another John Wick 4 incident, weren't we? Over that the
Trocadero.
Yeah. Where they do the card pulling.
Yeah. So at the Montmartre at Sacré-Cœur, that request came through from Sam from Greymouth. He wanted us to recreate the John Wick fight all the way up the stairs, which you guys duly did. And then I was pleased to see some more influencing going on from the two of you at the top of Sacré-Cœur.
We've realised we've cracked the code of what influencing is now.
Yes.
Because if you do faux influencing, like you be a dick about your influencing, you're still influencing.
And you can convince your mate to take photos of you in all of these beautiful places where you otherwise wouldn't be able to. You'd be like, no, I'm not going to take a photo of you.
But because it's a joke influence.
Yeah.
Then me and I think we're going to approach some agency or something and try and get sponsor, because we'll travel the world pretending that we're taking the piss out of influencing by posing stupidly, and yet we're right beside all the influencers. What's the big difference between us being dicks about influencing and taking the piss out of the other influencers when we're still influencing?
100%. And I'd just like to say, use promo code Manaia for 20% off your next purchase.
I did notice one particular boomer thought your behaviour was hilarious when you were both cocking the knee out in front of Sacré-Cœur. Like, there were so many people walking around, and there was these two middle-aged wounders popping a knee and like poking their chest out. And I could see that a few people saw the joke, and I could see a lot of people who thought it was serious, because Joe was knelt down in front of you like a boyfriend of Instagram. I was behind Joe doing the behind the influence series.
Yes,
there was a whole layers of fuckwittery was going on.
Well, and we've taken a lot of cues from the other influencers that are around. We've picked up some poses from them. We've talked to some of the people that are here with us on this trip who know how to pose.
Yeah, Ella and Ruby have been giving you quite a few tips, haven't they, around the leg pop?
Yeah, shout out to Ella and Ruby. They advised me not to stand side on in photos and videos anymore, and I've taken that one to heart. Shout out to everyone who mentioned it in the comments on the Instagram post as well. Though it has been noticed by the ACC public. That I have decided to square the shoulders a little bit, engage the line, if you will.
Engage the line, maybe just get the shoulders back a little bit, align the spine.
Stand up tall and proud.
You want to look hot, and if it takes 25 minutes to get that shot, then you just have to keep going until every unfortunate part of your body has been ironed out by the angle that you're contorting yourself into. It can take quite a while. Hey, another interesting thing that's been happening in Paris is, for some reason, Manaia is being singled out by wait staff as the person to test the wine before we drink it.
Yeah, and I did describe him as having a nose like a truffle pig, and the waiter was like, looked at him and went,
Well, it's we have a word for it in Māori. It's mana, and they recognise that over here.
I don't know.
Really? Did they recognise the mana when you tasted it and then the whole table laughed for about 10 minutes?
That's because
if you give a shit.
The way you tasted it, you drank it like it was a shot of tequila. That's why. Because normally with the corking, because you even asked, why do you even fucking do that?
I don't know what it's for.
Because in France especially, there's no twist tops on wine bottles. They're all corks. And obviously sometimes a cork goes bad and lets oxygen in. and the wine goes off.
Yeah.
And it's the opportunity for you to taste it and say it's good, and then, or if you say it's bad, they send it back and it's corked.
I'm never going to send it back.
No, but you would. But if it was corked, you would, because it would be
disgusting.
It would be disgusting.
Like vinegar.
okay.
It'd be like vinegar.
Yeah.
But you like nick it like a tequila and go, oh yeah.
You're like you've got to sample at an airport.
No, that's exactly right, because I noticed when he poured it, because I always try and steer clear of this, and I point at someone else at the table, go and show it to him, because I've never understood what it's about when they give you the little, do you want to try it? And when the amount that he poured it, I was just like, do I have to slug that? Like,
You don't have to slug it.
And so I
Just
buffed
smell it and then just spin
sip it.
around and have a little sip.
I buffed it and gave him the thumbs up before I'd even swallowed it.
Yeah.
So.
He did find that amusing.
But then the next bottle that he brought out, he brought it over to me again, and I made a big song and dance out of it. And he really appreciated it.
Yeah.
What I found interesting on that street we were on there, where you were buffing that particular situation there, when me, Joe, and Mike, and the waiter were all laughing at you for quite some time, was that was the most Parisian street you could ever imagine, and there was a thing at the end of it, like a huge ancient tower at the end of it.
Yeah.
And Paris has just so many incredible buildings. That would be, New Zealand would have that on our flag if that building was in New Zealand. We'd be talking about it constantly.
It'd be the top 10 thing to do in New Zealand to visit that.
But the waiter on the street couldn't even bother talking about it. We're like, what's that?
What is it?
It's like some kind of piece of shit.
Saint
Like,
Martin,
yeah, something, I don't know, you can go up it if you want. I don't know about it. We're like, what was it for? It's like, it was some, I don't know, people visited pilgrimage. I don't know. Like,
And we're like, should we go up?
What
He's like, oh, you got to pay for it. Like, it's Paris.
But literally one of the most beautiful buildings you've ever seen in your life. But there's so many of those in Paris. When you're walking around, you go, it's just a piece of shit building no one cares about, because there's too much incredible stuff here for someone to bother with just an amazing piece of 17th century architecture.
They're everywhere and no one gives a shit. Even the guy that was running the tours, he was bored. He looked like Matt Heath recording a podcast, where he's just nodding off. It's just like, if you look to your right, you will see the Eiffel Tower, and he just didn't give a shit.
Speaking of the city of love, some news from the camp last night from all of our 28 guests that we have here. And thank God the Palmy team have arrived. They missed their initial flight, and they've arrived. And
A couple of great New Zealanders.
yeah, they've hit the ground running. Those two, but some interesting news. A couple of single young lads managed to go out and find love.
Wow.
In the right places last night, and one of them. I mean, because look. The beds, and I don't know if you've seen the Instagram, go to the ACC NZ and you'll see the setup that Joe Jury and I have got in our twin share. There is about a 2 millimetre gap between our beds. They're basically a double bed pushed together with different sheets.
Yes.
And, I mean, good on him. His mate took a knee and went out and slept in the hallway for an hour and a half while things were developing inside. And then as things had finished, he was duly woken up in the hallway and brought back into his bed.
That's quite a quick turnaround.
Hour and a
half.
Well, I mean, like, in terms of a, I don't know, was no invitation to stay over or anything?
Well, it's quite difficult when you got a twin share.
It seems a bit transactional.
Well, that's what it is these days, Matt Heath. You jump on Tinder and you swipe right, swipe left. That's what you're down for.
Really?
You're DTF.
Really?
But you seen them this morning.
DTL, down for love.
Are you?
Down to love.
But seeing them at breakfast this morning.
Down to DTM, down to marry.
When you see three young men all in dark sunglasses at breakfast at 10 in the morning, like with a pastry that they were just moving around the plate.
Yeah.
They were in all sorts. But it was good to see that they...
Yeah, I don't think those three guys like me very much.
Why is that?
I don't know. I was trying to talk to them and they were just sort of pushing pastries around and they had sunglasses on.
Because they were dish.
I don't think they like me.
They were shadows.
Yeah.
They were shadows of
I took
men.
it personally.
Did you?
Yeah, I like to have a bit of a song and dance when I turn up at a table.
You sure it wasn't just you were just a little bit jealous?
What about the transaction?
Yeah.
I was a little bit jealous.
It sounded like a hell of a night too.
But me and Manaia had a hell of a night in our room.
Yeah, we did.
That was just some powerful sleep.
You guys sound like a couple of power sleepers.
Oh man, our sleeping game is so strong.
We're putting on a masterclass of sleeping over here in Paris.
Although to be fair, speaking about transactional, activities, I felt a bit transactional how you went for breakfast without waking me up this morning. When I woke up, I was like, "Where is he? Where is he?"
Look, we had discussed.
It's like a bat out of the hell. He was gone when the morning came.
I was. It was.
Did he leave a note?
No.
No. I spat on my way out. No, I just knew that if you could get another hour's sleep, who was I to deny you that? Because, as we mentioned, we're doing our best sleeping over here, and maybe it's chemically enhanced. We might be on 7 different pills to put us to sleep left over from the long haul flights. That's beside the point. You were sleeping like an angel, and I could have stayed there watching you for another hour, or I could have gone down and got some breakfast. So that's what I decided to do.
So Paris so far, how are you guys feeling? We're 4 days into the trip. We've seen a lot. We've done a lot. We've seen everything.
Yep.
We've gone hard. We've gone tourist hard.
I'm starting to find my feet in terms of, people talk about French people can be rude. That's what it's not that. It's we can be rude, and we offend them very quickly. I had a teachable moment today at a mall where I walked up to a security guard and asked him where the toilet was.
Can you explain? You walked straight up to him and said what?
I said, "Oh, bro, do you have a toilet around here?"
Exactly that. So you're in a French-speaking country, don't speak English, and you're.
To be fair, I walked up to him and I just asked toilet.
Oh.
And he looked at me confused, and so I was like, don't maybe do it, man. Toilet. And then he shook his head, and I said, I started saying, "Do you have a toilet somewhere?" And he just put his hand in my face, and he's just like, "Bonjour, monsieur." And I was like, "Oh, sorry. Bonjour, monsieur." And he's like, "Yeah, right. So go right down here, then jump in the elevator, get up." It's that I didn't address him. He's like, first of all, you're going to start with some respect, and then second of all, I speak way better English than your French. So go down there, go right.
But I'm just trying to think in New Zealand. Would you just go up to someone and say
Toilet?
I would say, have you got
security guard?
I would say, have you guys got a toilet in here? That is how I would say that. But I think
so you wouldn't say hello? You wouldn't say g'day?
No, I don't think
bro.
I would.
I reckon you would. You go get him, mate. Hey,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Hey, mate,
But
do you have a toilet?
but also we kind of raise our eyes when we walk up to someone. That doesn't happen here.
Which freaks people out. I'm doing it to people all up and down the street, throwing the eyebrows up, and they're just like, ugh.
He's going to mug me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very, yeah.
Pardon, monsieur?
Pardon, monsieur.
People are so polite here. Pardon, monsieur?
I got hit with the smoothest. So we had our first metro experience this morning as a group as well. And as is customary for Kiwis, we got lost.
Yeah.
We couldn't find the metro.
Auntie helped us.
And then Auntie pulled up as we were staring and pointing at various parts of the map. And she goes, "Where are you guys trying to go?" And we're like, "Over here." She's like, "Right, jump on this one and go this way." Shout out to Auntie. I know she's a big listener of this podcast. But as you're hopping on and off the metro, I was standing behind you guys, and this one was packed. And you got on, took 2 steps, stopped.
There was a panic.
The next guy took 1 step, stopped. As Heath got on, I was like, I think he's going to stop right in the doorway, and I'm going to get bounced off this thing. So I packed down Artie Xavier style at the back of the scrum and crammed you guys on. You were like pinballing around off all these other French people.
The best thing about that was it was going ding, 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 and you're like, "I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make
get
it."
on.
And then all of a sudden, you just barreled everyone into the cart.
Yeah, well, you did well not to collapse the scrum there as well, because we could not afford a reset. But as I got off that thing, I walked past somebody, and they were right beside me, and I got in their way, and they walked around, and he just hit me right in the ear with a "Pardon, monsieur." Right in my ear. It's just the coolest dude I've ever seen.
I'm not actually convinced that Paris is a real place. I think it might be a video game.
Oh,
because it looks really beautiful, and like the architecture's just done exactly like a video game, and people do sort of walk around talking like NPCs. They're saying things like "Pardon, monsieur," like it's been recorded in a voice booth really close to the mic.
And look, I mean, you get into the lift, and I get a wide on every time I get in the lift, because the lift person is female, and she's talking like she is on an 0900 number. She's like,
I mean, what about even on the metro? The sexy way she tells you the next place. She's like,
Bastille. They ask you as you're approaching the stop, Bastille. And you're like, "What?" And they go, "Bastille."
Stalingrad.
So we've got a couple of big days coming up, haven't we? We've got All Blacks tomorrow. All Blacks versus Uruguay.
Yeah.
And the commentary on that is on Friday morning at 8 a.m. with Tony Lyle and the Night Warden. But we're going to go check that out. And France are playing. And then the big Ireland-Scotland game, which is in Putty.
Yep, that Ireland are going to throw.
Yeah, I'm going to throw that one. So we've got a big couple of days coming up, and we've got some activities tomorrow. We've got a game of touch rugby that we've scheduled in the centre of Putty, and a game of cricket as well. So that should upset a reasonable amount of people when people are sunbathing and drinking wine and getting a tennis ball to the face.
Oh, tennis ball good, not hardball.
Or we can go hardball.
If you come screaming in with hardball, just
Get the kookaburra going. Exactly.
thwacking it into people's bottles of wine.
Well, there was someone doing that at the John Wick stairs. There was a woman running laps, and she had a dog with her, and she would stand at the top of the stairs, just hoof the ball down the stairs to send the dog down. And I was watching these boomers just getting sconed right in the thigh, just, the whole way down. They're all looking around like, where the hell did that come from? She just kept doing it back and forth.
That was a big D move from her because, like those steps are famous for how hard it was for John Wick to fight his way up there. And she's just going up and down, up and down, and up and down with a dog like it ain't no thing.
She was stoked when we showed up.
No one was trying to shoot her, I guess.
She was no longer the most embarrassing person on the staircase once we got there because we started fighting the entire way up. And I think at one point I got sconed by that ball as well.
And beer gardens? Beer garden tours so far? Not so much beer gardens, more beer cafes.
Well, the other thing that's happening a lot in Paris is us getting profiled.
Oh,
yes.
Because especially since I found out that people in Paris don't respect beer. They think it's pretty povo to drink beer compared to wine.
It's roast beef territory.
Yeah, it's roast beef. It's Germany. And whenever we go, they go 4 beers, big ones.
Yeah. Every time we sit down.
We go, non, monsieur.
And we go,
rosé.
Oh, no, we did that. We did that a couple of times. We did that once, and he goes, 4 beers, and we went, yes.
Yeah.
And then the next phase, we went, we're going to stand up for ourselves here.
Yeah, we're not going to be profiled as people that have 4 large beers, even though that's what we want.
Oh, they can spot us from a mile away, can't they? They just walk straight in.
And we ordered a rosé, and we ordered their second most expensive rosé.
Yes, which was €1.
The second cheapest rosé.
Which was €1 more expensive than the cheapest rosé.
But that was when the waiter finally went, you guys are losers.
Yeah.
And he walked off.
Yeah.
Well, no, but he had more to come when he tried to give me the first taste of the wine. He's like, these guys.
Anyway, that's day 4 of the Paris Files. If you've got any questions, fire them through to the Matt and Jerry Show Instagram or Matt Heath NZ on Instagram. If you just want anything you need to know about Paris, because you've got 3 absolute experts.
Yeah, and if you want
Francophiles. Francophiles, all 3 of us.
Francophiles. And if you want us to do anything in Paris on your behalf as well, let us know, because we've been doing that all the last 4 days.
Maybe you've got a little crush on me. I mean, I'm a pretty good-looking guy. A lot of girls get quite excited about me. I'm a pretty hot dude, so if you want me to attach a lock to any part of a building with your name written on it, I'll do that.
What is up with that? Like, there's locks everywhere.
Yeah.
All over. If there's a fence, there's a punishing lock on it with some initials on it.
And how low are your standards if someone told you that they'd done that for you and you're just like, oh my God.
Oh, brilliant.
What a gesture.
Oh,
yeah.
You bought a €1 lock off some dude with a blanket laid out.
Some guy that stinks like urine with a blanket laid out.
And the master key who's going to come back tonight and unlock it and sell it back to some other punter the next day.
Yeah,
that's what he's doing, isn't he?
Wait. Okay, right. Should we hit another garden bar?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. All right.
You've been listening to the ACC's Agenda podcast. For more episodes, subscribe on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts.